The weeks had passed quickly, and Ziltha's understanding of human emotions had deepened. She was becoming more attuned to the complexity of relationships, but there was still so much she wanted to learn. One sunny afternoon, Alex invited her to a local celebration, his town's annual harvest festival. It was a day of music, food, and games, and he thought it would be a good way for Ziltha to witness the joy humans shared during a communal event. As they approached the festival grounds, Ziltha's eyes widened at the sight. Colorful tents lined the streets, filled with people laughing, eating, and dancing. The air smelled of freshly baked pies and grilled corn, and the sounds of folk music echoed in the distance. "This is overwhelming," Ziltha said, her voice filled with wonder. "The energy here is unlike anything I have observed on my world." Alex grinned. "Yeah, it's pretty lively. This festival is all about celebrating the harvest and coming together as a community. People from all over the town come to share in the joy." As they walked deeper into the crowd, Ziltha took in every detail. She watched as families and friends hugged each other, shared food, and laughed together. There was a feeling of unity in the air, something that Ziltha had never experienced in her home world, where emotions were often seen as distractions. Alex led her to a food stall where they picked up a plate of roasted vegetables. As they sat at one of the picnic tables, Ziltha asked, "Why do humans celebrate things like this? What is the purpose of these gatherings?" Alex thought for a moment before answering. "It's about connection. Humans need these moments to bond, to feel a sense of belonging. We celebrate our shared experiences and the simple joys in life. It reminds us that we're not alone in the world." Ziltha nodded thoughtfully, her glowing skin dimming slightly as she processed his words. "It seems that celebration is a form of gratitude, an acknowledgement of what you have, even if it is fleeting." "Exactly," Alex said. "Celebration isn't just about having fun. It's about appreciating what you've got and sharing it with others." They continued to watch the festivities around them. A group of children ran by, holding hands and laughing, their faces painted with bright colors. A couple danced to the lively music, their movements in sync, their smiles wide. Ziltha was silent for a long time, her eyes following the movements of the crowd. Finally, she turned to Alex. This is what your species values, isn't it? These connections, these shared experiences. This is why love is so important to you." Alex nodded. "You've got it, Ziltha. Humans need these connections to make life meaningful. Without them, we'd be lost." Ziltha seemed to consider this deeply. "Perhaps this is what my people are missing. We focus so much on logic and efficiency that we forget the importance of connection, of shared experience." The music swelled, and a nearby group of friends began to sing along, their voices blending in harmony. Ziltha watched them, her glowing form flickering with a strange new light. "I think I understand now," she said quietly. "There is beauty in human connection. It is not always logical, but it is powerful. This is what your species has that mine does not." Alex smiled, proud of how far Ziltha had come. "Maybe one day, your people will experience it too." As the sun set behind the festival, casting a warm golden light over the scene, Alex felt a quiet sense of hope. Maybe the lessons they were learning from each other weren't just for Ziltha's species, they were for humanity too. For the first time, Alex felt the deep, undeniable truth. Love and connection were universal. The next few days were filled with Ziltha's relentless questions about love. Alex quickly realized that explaining it was harder than he'd expected. She didn't just want to hear definitions, she wanted examples. "Love is more than one thing," Alex explained one morning as they walked through the bustling town square. "It's not just romantic. It can be the love you feel for a friend, your family, or even your pet. It's about connection and care." Ziltha nodded slowly. "This concept of care seems to be central to your species, yet it is highly illogical to invest so much in others, knowing they might fail you or leave." "It's not about logic," Alex said with a shrug. It's about how it makes life meaningful. Love's worth the risk, even when it hurts. They stopped in front of a cafe, where an elderly couple sat at a small table, sharing a plate of pastries. Zilpha watched them intently. The woman reached over to adjust the man's scarf, her hands gentle and deliberate. "Why is she doing that?" Zilpha asked. "She's showing love," Alex said. "Taking care of someone, even in small ways, is one way we express it." Zilpha's glowing eyes flickered with thought. "May I approach them?" Alex hesitated but nodded. "Just be polite." Zilpha walked over to the couple, her iridescent form immediately drawing their attention. "Greetings," she said, bowing slightly. "I am Zilpha, an observer from Andromeda. May I ask about your relationship?" The couple exchanged amused glances. The man chuckled. "Well, you're certainly direct. We've been married for 50 years. What do you want to know?" 50 years, Zilpha repeated, her voice tinged with awe. "How do you sustain such a bond for so long?" The woman smiled warmly. "We've had our ups and downs, of course. But we've always supported each other, no matter what. Love isn't just about feeling good. It's about commitment." Zilpha tilted her head. "Commitment requires effort, even when it is difficult. Why would you choose this path over seeking efficiency or solitude?" The man laughed. "Because life's better when you share it with someone. The hard times are easier, and the good times are even sweeter." Zilpha stood silently for a moment, absorbing their words. "Thank you for sharing your insights. Your dedication is inspiring." As they walked away from the cafe, Alex noticed Zilpha's glow was brighter than usual. "I think you're starting to get it," Alex said, smiling. Zilpha turned to him. "Love appears to be a force that defies reason, yet it creates bonds that strengthen over time. It is extraordinary." "It really is," Alex agreed. "And the best part, it's different for everyone. No two people experience love in exactly the same way." Zilpha nodded thoughtfully. "Your species has much to teach. Perhaps my own people can learn from this as well." For the first time, Alex saw something in Zilpha's expression, something almost human. Alex Carter was not having an extraordinary day. The sun was out, the coffee was lukewarm, and his research papers were piling up on his cluttered desk. As an astrobiologist working at a small observatory, he spent most of his days studying signals from space, hoping for a moment of discovery. But in the quiet countryside where his observatory stood, the most exciting events were often limited to spotting a rare bird outside the window. It all changed one night. It started with a flash in the sky. Alex was outside, sipping his evening tea, when a streak of light zipped across the horizon and landed with a dull thud in the forest nearby. He froze, his heart pounding. It wasn't a meteor. He knew that much. Meteors didn't slow down before landing. Grabbing his flashlight and jacket, Alex ventured into the woods, his curiosity overwhelming any fear. The air felt charged, like just before a thunderstorm. As he approached the clearing, he saw it, a sleek, silver object, about the size of a car, humming softly. It wasn't any technology he'd ever seen. Before Alex could take another step, the object opened. A figure stepped out, humanoid but undeniably alien. Its skin shimmered with an iridescent hue, shifting colors under the moonlight. It had large, expressive eyes that seemed to study him with curiosity rather than hostility. The being was tall and slender, wrapped in a form-fitting suit that glowed faintly at the edges. "Greetings," the alien said, its voice melodic yet robotic, as if mimicking human speech. "I am Zilpha, an observer from the Andromeda system. I seek knowledge about your species." Alex stared, his mind racing. A real alien. Here, talking to him. He pinched himself, but the scene didn't vanish. Summoning his courage, he replied, "I'm Alex Carter. Welcome to Earth." Zilpha tilted her head, a motion that seemed oddly human. "I have chosen you, Alex Carter, to assist me. I wish to study human relationships, friendship, love, and emotional bonds. My species lacks these concepts, and we wish to understand their significance. Alex blinked, unsure how to respond. Study human relationships. Why him? He wasn't exactly an expert. His last serious relationship had ended years ago, and his social life consisted mostly of video calls with his sister and the occasional chat with his neighbors. You want me to teach you about relationships? Alex asked, his voice tinged with disbelief. Yes, Ziltha said simply. Your species is unique in the galaxy for your emotional depth. It fascinates us. Alex rubbed the back of his neck, trying to process everything. A real alien had landed in his backyard, and it wanted him to teach it about emotions. He sighed, realizing he couldn't exactly say no. All right, he said finally, but this might be harder than you think. Ziltha smiled, or at least Alex thought it was a smile. I am ready to learn. As they walked back toward his house, Alex couldn't help but wonder, what had he just gotten himself into? The weeks had gone by quickly, and Ziltha's journey on Earth was nearing its end. She had learned more than she had ever expected, and her understanding of human emotions was growing every day. But there was something else stirring within her, an unexpected change that she hadn't anticipated. It was early morning when Ziltha approached Alex in his backyard, her expression more serious than usual. She had been thinking deeply about the lessons she had gathered, and now it was time to share her reflections. Alex, Ziltha said, her voice carrying a weight of contemplation. I have spent much time observing humans, your relationships, your emotions, your way of life, and I have come to a conclusion. Alex, who was sipping his coffee on the porch, looked up, sensing the shift in her tone. What's on your mind, Ziltha? I have learned much about love and connection. I have observed how humans form bonds of trust, affection, and care. I see now that these connections are the foundation of your existence. Without them, your species would not thrive. She paused, her glowing eyes dimming as if in deep thought. My people have never understood this. We prioritize logic, efficiency, and individuality. We have no concept of love like yours. We focus on function, not feeling. Alex sat up straighter, intrigued by what she was saying. Are you saying you want to change that? Ziltha nodded slowly. I have seen the power of your connections. I have felt it, even though I do not fully understand it. Your emotions, your bonds, they are not weaknesses. They are strengths. I believe my people could learn from this. We could learn to feel, to care, to connect in ways we never have before. Alex's heart skipped a beat. He hadn't expected Ziltha to go so far. The idea that she wanted to bring human emotions to her species was both exciting and daunting. But you've seen how difficult it can be, Alex said gently. Humans aren't perfect. Love comes with pain, with loss. It's not always easy. I understand, Ziltha said, her voice steady. But I believe it is worth the effort. Even with the pain, even with the challenges, humans find meaning in these relationships. It is something my species has missed for so long. And I want to change that. Alex stood up, moving closer to her. Ziltha, this is huge. You're talking about reshaping your entire society. I know, Ziltha said softly. But I believe it can be done. I believe that we can learn to connect, to love, to be more than just efficient machines. Perhaps if we try, we can find a new way to exist, a way that values connection above all else. Alex looked at her, feeling a mix of admiration and uncertainty. He had never thought that his relationship with Ziltha, one born out of curiosity and learning, could have such an impact on an entire species. You're already changing, Ziltha, he said, his voice filled with quiet pride. You've learned what it means to care, to be there for someone else. And maybe that's the first step. Ziltha's glowing form seemed to brighten at his words. You are right, Alex. I have changed. And now, I must share this with my people. The weight of what Ziltha was proposing was still heavy on Alex's mind, but as he looked at her, standing tall with a newfound sense of purpose, he couldn't help but feel a sense of hope. Ziltha wasn't just an alien studying human emotions. She was someone who had embraced the power of love and connection, and she was ready to take that knowledge back to her world. "I'll be here to help, Ziltha," Alex said, his voice sincere. "Whatever you need." Ziltha nodded, her eyes glowing brighter than ever. "Thank you, Alex. I will not forget this." And in that moment, Alex realized that their friendship had become something far bigger than either of them could have imagined. Later that evening, Alex's phone buzzed with an incoming video call. The screen lit up with the face of his younger sister, Lily, grinning ear to ear. "Alex," she said cheerfully, "I haven't heard from you in ages. You're still alive, right?" Alex smirked, but before he could respond, Ziltha's glowing form walked into view. Lily's smile froze. Alex," Lily asked, blinking. "Who, or what, is that?" "This is Ziltha," Alex said, keeping his voice casual. "She's a guest from very far away." Ziltha stepped closer to the screen, her iridescent skin shimmering. "Greetings. I am Ziltha, an observer from the Andromeda system. I am here to learn about human relationships." There was a long silence. Then Lily burst into laughter. "Alex, you've really outdone yourself this time. Did you build this thing? A hologram, maybe?" "It's not a hologram," Alex said quickly. "Ziltha is real. And she's studying us." Lily's laughter faded as she realized Alex wasn't joking. "Wait. Are you serious?" Alex nodded. "Well," Lily said, still trying to process the situation, "if she's studying humans, why don't you bring her to the family dinner this weekend? Everyone would love to meet her." Ziltha perked up. "A gathering of your family. This sounds like an excellent opportunity to observe interpersonal dynamics." Alex hesitated, picturing his parents' reaction to an alien guest. I don't know if that's a good idea." "Nonsense," Lily interrupted. "You're coming. And bring Ziltha. I'll tell Mom and Dad to set an extra plate." Before Alex could argue, Lily ended the call. The day of the family dinner arrived, and Alex found himself nervously driving Ziltha to his parents' house. She sat in the passenger seat, staring out the window at the passing scenery. "This environment is peaceful," Ziltha observed. "Your kind values such tranquility." "Sometimes," Alex replied. "It's nice to have quiet spaces to relax and spend time with loved ones." When they arrived, Alex's family greeted them warmly, though their smiles turned into wide-eyed stares when Ziltha stepped out of the car. "Alex," his mother whispered, pulling him aside, "is this some kind of prank?" "It's not a prank, Mom," Alex said, sighing. "She's an alien. She's here to learn about humans. Just go with it, okay?" Dinner was a mixture of awkwardness and fascination. Ziltha asked endless questions, from why humans held hands to why laughter erupted at random moments during the meal. She observed as Alex's father teased his wife, and as Lily told embarrassing stories about Alex from their childhood. "Your interactions are complex," Ziltha remarked. "There is teasing, yet no harm intended. There is conflict, yet no anger. How do you achieve such balance?" "It's called love," Alex's mom said, smiling. "You care for each other, even when you're not perfect." Ziltha sat back, glowing faintly. "Love, another concept we lack. Your species grows more intriguing by the moment." As they drove home later that night, Ziltha turned to Alex. "Your family taught me much. Human connections are far more layered than I anticipated." Alex chuckled. "That's family for you. Messy, but worth it." Ziltha nodded. "Perhaps my species can learn from this." For the first time, Alex felt a flicker of hope that Ziltha's mission might truly bridge the gap between their worlds. The next morning, Alex awoke to the faint hum of machinery. Groggily, he rubbed his eyes and stumbled out of his bedroom. The sound was coming from his garage, where he definitely hadn't left anything running. As he opened the door to the garage, he froze. Zilpha stood in the center of the room, surrounded by a chaotic mix of wires, blinking lights, and what looked like parts of his coffee maker. Her hands moved rapidly over a glowing tablet, and strange holographic diagrams floated in the air around her. "Zilpha," Alex groaned. "What are you doing?" "Good morning, Alex," Zilpha said without looking up. "I am conducting an experiment." "An experiment?" Alex repeated, stepping carefully over a tangle of wires. "What kind of experiment?" Zilpha turned to him, her glowing eyes flickering with enthusiasm. "I seek to understand the human process of reproduction. Your family spoke of love and emotional bonds as central to this process, but the biological mechanics are equally fascinating. I intend to simulate it." Alex's face turned bright red. "Simulate it? With this?" He gestured to the mess of machinery around them. "Correct," Zilpha said. "I am attempting to recreate the conditions necessary for human reproduction using data from your biology books." She held up one of Alex's old college textbooks, Biology 101, its pages now covered in glowing alien symbols. Alex ran a hand through his hair, trying to keep his voice calm. "Zilpha, reproduction isn't something you can just recreate in a garage. It's not just science. It's personal, emotional, complicated." Zilpha tilted her head, clearly puzzled. "But the biological process itself is straightforward. Fertilization, gestation, and so on. Why is it considered complicated?" Alex sighed. "Because it's not just about biology. It's about connection, love. The decision to bring a new life into the world is one of the most meaningful things humans can do. You can't understand it with machines and diagrams." Zilpha paused, her glowing hands hovering over her tablet. For the first time, she looked uncertain. "I see. I approached this with logic, but perhaps I overlooked the emotional complexity." Alex nodded, stepping closer to dismantle the chaotic setup. "Don't worry. It's not something you can fully understand in a lab. It takes time and experience to learn why it's so important to us." Zilpha watched silently as Alex untangled the wires and switched off the machines. When he finished, she said softly, "I appreciate your patience, Alex. I am beginning to see that your species places great value on meaning, not just function. This is a foreign concept to me." "Well," Alex said with a small smile, "you're learning. That's what matters." As they cleaned up the mess together, Zilpha seemed quieter than usual, her glowing form dimmed slightly. It was clear she was deep in thought. Alex couldn't help but wonder what new questions she would have, and what other surprises were still to come. The day had come. Zilpha was preparing to leave Earth, and Alex couldn't help but feel a strange mix of emotions. It had been months since she first arrived, and in that time, she had learned more about humanity and about herself than anyone could have expected. They stood on the edge of the small field behind Alex's house, the same spot where Zilpha had landed all those weeks ago. The silver craft that had brought her here sat quietly nearby, ready to take her back to her homeworld. Alex had thought he would be relieved when the time came for her to leave, but instead he found himself feeling sad. Zilpha had become more than just a curious visitor from another galaxy. She had become a friend. Zilpha stood before him, her glowing form steady and calm. "Alex," she said, her voice soft yet resolute, "I must return to my people. But before I go, I want to thank you." Alex looked at her, puzzled. "Thank me? For what?" "For everything," Zilpha said, her eyes bright with a mixture of gratitude and newfound understanding. "You have shown me what it means to care for others, to connect with them in ways I never thought possible. I have learned more about love, about friendship, than I could have ever imagined." Alex felt a lump in his throat. He had never expected his life to change so much when he first met Zilpha, but now it seemed like the lessons they had shared would stay with him forever. "I'm glad I could help," Alex said, his voice thick. "You've taught me a lot too. I didn't realize how important it is to take the time to truly understand other people, especially when they're so different from us." Zilpha smiled, her expression peaceful. "You have given me something priceless, Alex, a new way of seeing the universe. I will carry these lessons back to my world, and I will share them with my people. I believe it is time for us to change, to embrace connection over efficiency. Your species has something valuable that we have long forgotten." Alex nodded, feeling a surge of pride. Zilpha had truly changed, and in doing so, she had helped him see the importance of his own relationships in a way he hadn't before. "You'll do great, Zilpha," Alex said. "I know you'll make a difference." Zilpha's eyes softened, and she reached into her suit, pulling out a small object. It was a crystal, glowing with the same light that filled her body. She handed it to Alex. "This is a token of my gratitude," she said. "It holds a small piece of my world, a reminder of our time together." Alex took the crystal, feeling its warmth in his hand. "Thank you," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "I'll keep it with me always." Zilpha stepped back, her craft's hatch opening behind her. "It is time," she said simply. Alex stood there for a moment, watching as Zilpha ascended into her ship. The door closed, and the craft slowly lifted off the ground, rising into the sky with a soft hum. Alex watched as the ship disappeared into the distance, feeling both sadness and hope in his heart. As Zilpha's ship faded from view, Alex stood still, holding the glowing crystal in his hand. He realized that the bond they had formed, though brief, had changed both of them. They had learned from each other, shared something deep and meaningful, and in doing so, had become part of something larger than themselves. He knew that Zilpha's journey was just beginning, and so was his. And maybe, just maybe, the lessons they had learned from each other would ripple out into the universe, spreading the power of love and connection across the stars. With that thought in his mind, Alex turned and walked back toward his home, ready to face the next chapter of his life. The next morning, Alex found himself in the middle of an unexpected conversation. Zilpha, as curious as ever, was staring at his kitchen table, where a half-eaten bagel sat beside a cup of coffee. "Human sustenance is intriguing," Zilpha said, poking the bagel with one of her glowing fingers. "Food's not just for survival," Alex explained, biting into his breakfast. "It's a big part of our culture. We share meals to connect with others, like dinner with family or coffee with friends." Zilpha's head tilted. "You use sustenance as a social tool. Fascinating. My species consumes nutrients in isolation. Efficiency is our priority." "Well, efficiency isn't everything," Alex said with a shrug. "Sometimes it's about enjoying the experience." Zilpha nodded slowly but seemed unconvinced. Later that day, Alex decided to take Zilpha to a nearby park to show her more of Earth's culture. The park was bustling with activity, children playing, couples walking hand in hand, and people laughing as they shared food and conversation. Zilpha's large eyes darted from one group to another, drinking in every detail. "What are they doing?" she asked, pointing at a pair of joggers who had stopped to high-five each other. "Encouraging each other," Alex said. "Humans motivate each other through words and actions. It builds trust and connection." Zilpha frowned. "Motivation through external interaction. This is rare in my species. If one fails, they simply improve alone. Why do you rely on others?" Alex thought for a moment. "Because we're not meant to be alone. Sometimes we need others to push us, to make us better. It's part of being human." As they walked deeper into the park, they came across a young girl crying by a bench. Her kite was tangled in a tree, the string dangling just out of reach. Zilpha observed the girl, her glowing skin dimming slightly, as if in confusion. "She is leaking liquid from her eyes. This indicates distress, correct?" Alex nodded. She's crying because she's upset. It's what we do when we feel strong emotions. Emotions again, Zilpha murmured, stepping closer to the girl. Before Alex could stop her, Zilpha spoke to the child. Why does the loss of this object cause you pain? The girl sniffled, startled by Zilpha's strange appearance, but she managed to answer. It was my favorite kite. My grandpa gave it to me before he. She trailed off, tears streaming down her cheeks. Zilpha looked to Alex for help. He crouched beside the girl, smiling gently. I'll get it down for you, he said, climbing the tree and retrieving the kite. He handed it back, and the girl's face lit up with a smile. Thank you, she said before running off to her parents. Zilpha observed Alex, her expression unreadable. You helped her, even though the loss was temporary. Why? Because kindness matters, Alex said simply. Even small gestures can make someone's day better. Zilpha's glowing skin brightened slightly. Kindness. Another concept my species must explore further. As they left the park, Zilpha seemed deep in thought. For the first time, Alex wondered if her mission might end up changing her more than she expected. The first thing Zilpha did when she entered Alex's small house was inspect everything. Her large, curious eyes scanned the living room, lingering on the bookshelves, the television, and the strange contraption Alex called a coffee maker. To her, it all seemed primitive yet oddly charming. Your dwelling is smaller than expected, Zilpha remarked, running a glowing finger along the edge of the couch. Alex chuckled nervously. Well, not all humans live in big houses. This is what we call cozy. Zilpha nodded, though it was clear she didn't entirely understand. She turned her attention to a framed photograph on the wall. It showed Alex standing next to his sister and their family dog, all smiling brightly. Who are these individuals? Zilpha asked, pointing to the photo. That's my sister, Lily, and that's Max, her dog. Alex explained. We're close. Family means a lot to humans. Family. Zilpha said the word slowly, as if tasting it for the first time. In my species, offspring are raised collectively, and emotional bonds are considered inefficient. Yet humans form such strong connections. Why? Alex shrugged, trying to simplify a complex answer. I guess it's just how we're wired. Family gives us a sense of belonging. They're the people we trust most. Zilpha tilted her head thoughtfully. Trust. Another fascinating concept. We have agreements based on logic, but trust implies risk. You trust even when there is no guarantee of success. Exactly, Alex said, surprised by how quickly she grasped the idea. Curious to show her more, Alex switched on the TV. A romantic movie was playing, and Zilpha leaned forward, her eyes glued to the screen. The characters were in the middle of an emotional argument, tears streaming down their faces. Why are they raising their voices? Zilpha asked. They're fighting, Alex explained. Humans don't always agree, especially in relationships, but sometimes conflict can make bonds stronger. Zilpha frowned, clearly puzzled. You deliberately experience emotional distress to strengthen bonds. This seems illogical. Alex laughed. It's not something we plan to do. It just happens. Relationships aren't perfect, but they're worth the effort. Zilpha continued to watch, fascinated. When the characters reconciled with a heartfelt hug, she turned to Alex. Physical touch, does this serve as a form of communication? Yes, Alex said. Hugs, handshakes, even just a pat on the back. It's how we show affection or comfort. Zilpha stood and extended her hand. Then I shall attempt this gesture of trust and affection. Alex hesitated, then shook her hand gently. Her touch was cool and smooth, almost metallic. Zilpha observed the handshake with great interest, as if analyzing every sensation. This exchange has been enlightening, Zilpha said. Your species thrives on complexities. I must experience more. Alex smiled, amused by her determination. Don't worry. You've only scratched the surface. There's a lot more to learn about humans." As Ziltha nodded, her glowing eyes bright with curiosity, Alex realized that his life was about to become anything but ordinary. A week had passed since Ziltha had started learning about human emotions, and Alex could already see changes in her. She was no longer just an alien observer. She was beginning to understand the complexities of human relationships, even if she didn't always agree with them. One afternoon, Alex invited Ziltha to a local park. He'd been feeling a little off lately. Nothing serious, just the kind of low mood that comes and goes. As they walked along the trail, Ziltha noticed the shift in his energy. "Alex," she said, her voice curious, "you seem different today. Is something wrong?" Alex shrugged. "It's nothing, really. Just a bit of a rough day." Ziltha's eyes narrowed in thought. "In my species, if something is wrong, it is acknowledged and addressed immediately. Why do you choose to hide it?" Alex smiled weakly. "I'm not hiding it. It's just that humans don't always share every little thing. Sometimes we need time to work through things on our own." Ziltha was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke again. "In your world, people often help each other, correct? You share your emotions with friends and family." "That's true," Alex said, "but it's not always easy. It can be hard to let people in." Ziltha seemed to consider his words carefully. "And what do you do when you need help?" Alex paused. "Well, you reach out. To friends, family, people you trust." Ziltha's glowing eyes softened. "You trust others with your pain. This seems illogical. Would it not be easier to handle things alone?" Alex stopped walking and turned to face her. "It's not about it being easy. It's about not facing everything alone. We're social creatures, Ziltha. We need each other." Ziltha stood still for a moment, absorbing his words. "This concept is difficult to grasp, but I want to understand." As they continued their walk, Ziltha seemed deep in thought. When they reached a small bench, Alex sat down and stared out at the distant horizon. Feeling the weight of his thoughts, Ziltha sat beside him, her presence strangely comforting despite her alien appearance. "Do you want to talk about it?" Ziltha asked after a long silence. Alex looked at her, surprised by her offer. "I didn't think you'd want to listen." Ziltha tilted her head. "You said that humans rely on others for support. Perhaps it is time for me to offer that support." For a moment, Alex hesitated. Then something in Ziltha's voice made him feel like she genuinely cared. Slowly, he began to speak, telling her about the stress of his job, the loneliness he'd been feeling, and the recent strain on his friendships. Ziltha listened without interruption, her glowing eyes softening as she processed his words. When he finished, she said quietly, "I do not understand the emotions you are describing fully, but I can see they weigh on you. I do not wish for you to carry them alone." Alex smiled, touched by her sincerity. "Thanks, Ziltha. That actually means a lot." Ziltha's form shimmered slightly as if reflecting a newfound sense of purpose. "If it is helpful, I will stay by your side. You are not alone." The simple gesture was enough to make Alex feel a little lighter. In that moment, he realized that friendship, whether human or alien, could be a powerful thing. As they left the park, Ziltha seemed to have a better understanding of what it meant to share your burden with someone else. It wasn't just about talking. It was about the act of being there for each other. For the first time, Alex wondered if Ziltha's journey was changing him as much as he was changing her.